Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the BrickCityBlockade.com podcast network. That's right, we're kicking off Friendom Week the way it should be, with nothing but positivity and the message of unity is community in the Friendom itself. And of course, sitting across from me is Mr. Kaden Stetler himself. Kaden, how's everything going?
Oh, it's going great, man. I second day of Friendom Week. We had a great first day yesterday. Couldn't have asked for a better start to Friendom Week. We had the solo trailer. We had some awesome shout outs all over social media of people shouting all sorts of people out just for their contribution to this awesome Friendom that we've all built together. And it's been an amazing experience. And you know what? I'm gonna let you go first, but I have some really cool stories today of great examples of the power of friendom and just what Brick City and Rebel Cause are able to do through the friendom. So very excited to share that with all you guys. But first, I think you have something you want to say, Robin, correct?
Yeah, it's something that's been on my mind for quite some time. And of course, everybody knows Words of the Wills, which is now part of the BrickCityBlockade.com podcast network, and its host, Mr. Andrew Merton Garish. And I cannot say enough about this guy. That's right, I'm going to shout him out here on the show. Andrew has been, in so many ways, not just a wonderful contribution to the network, but has become such a good friend of mine, somebody that I talk to every day, and somebody who's been able to contribute to the discussion not of just Star Wars, but of life itself on a consistent basis. He adds such a level of gravitas to a discussion, whether it is about Star Wars, whether it's not. And what's been fantastic about having Andrew, not just part of the network, but being a friend of ours, me specifically, I think meeting Andrew through social media itself, more specifically Facebook, and his contributions to the podcast network, not in terms of just buying t-shirts and showing his support that way, but just trying to be and being successful at being a positive voice in every single way. Andrew and I, we talk a lot. We talk a lot about the fandom, the friendom, and everything that consumes it. And we even talk about other things too. We talk about WWE, things that we grew up with. And Andrew is just one of those guys that, you know, it doesn't matter how well you know him, you're going to get to know him. And you're going to get to like him as a human being, not necessarily as a podcaster, but as a human being. And that's one of the most important things that we see here at the network. And one of the most important things in life is that we don't necessarily see people as a voice in the community. We see them as a personality and somebody who is able to project themselves in a positive manner throughout the community, and no matter which way they want to do it. And Andrew does this to a T. He's a wonderful human being. He finds unique ways of bringing conversations to people. And at the same time, he's somebody who you can go to and have an in-depth conversation, not just about Star Wars, but about life with. And Andrew has meant so much to me, in not just developing the podcast network and finding unique personalities to come on and have discussions, Caden, but Andrew has been somebody who I can go to each day and talk to, and he can come to me and you and everybody at the network and have discussions about life with. And that's just so big. And it's just
Absolutely.
it's a quality in which everybody that we want to and capture in all that we do.
Yeah, I can't agree more, man. I'd say 90% of my conversations with Andrew start with like, how was your day, man? We talk about, I think we're friends first. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Then we're
Yeah.
podcasting colleagues second, because we obviously share this mutual love of Star Wars. But, you know, he's gotten to be such a good friend of mine, and it happened so quick, but that's just how easy it is to be friends with this guy.
Mm.
You know what I mean? We met through you just a few months ago. I mean, honestly, it was when I was laid up with the broken ankle. That's really when I started to talk to Andrew.
Mm.
And just it has been such a quick friendship, but a great one. I mean, he's one of the guys too. As everybody knows, Robin and I basically talk every minute of the day, and Andrew's very close to that as
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
We talk constantly, and like we say, it is not just about Star Wars. It's about life and how we're feeling. When we have a bad day, you better believe. I think, well, little inside information. Robin and I just had a little. I had a weird day, a little frustrating day, whatever, and we just talked about it.
Yeah.
It's just like someone to talk to, and Andrew has been that for me, and vice versa, and the same with you and I. It truly is just that definition of what the friendom is. It is friends that develop through fandom. And it has been such an amazing experience to get to know this guy. And I can't even perceive what the future is going to hold for all of us, for us three doing, October, we're all going to be together at the Kappa Cup.
That's
Um,
right.
and which is going to be fantastic, man. And we're getting to meet these awesome people that we consider some of our best friends, and we've never even met before. in,
Yeah.
in you know in flesh, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's one of those things that um not just in what we do as podcasters, but in life itself, that the power of social media, the power of the friendom is that we can make those connections in social media, not necessarily seeing each other face to face, even though that does happen, and it encourages that. It encouraged that for Scott Inch to come to America and finally see what we're doing here in America, and for us to finally meet the Scotsman himself. The friendom is what was able to drive that forward, is the reason why I'm coming to Lancaster. I say it on every episode. It's that friendom is what has brought everything together. Andrew has been able to easily adjust and has been able, I think he's carried it throughout his life, the ability to just talk with people about interests and be able to connect with them on a much deeper level. And that's so important in life. And Kaden, I know you have had some fantastic experiences recently with human beings themselves, people in the Star Wars community, people outside of the Star Wars community, having the opportunity to just kind of take a step back and say, wow, this is what it's all about in the grand spectrum of it all.
Yeah, and you know what? This is a good time to tell the story I had from today. um, Someone I work with, and the point of this is I urge all fans, don't just be positive to other Star Wars fans.
Mm-hmm.
Take this message and really apply it to everyday life, because something happened to me today that was interesting. Um, there was a kid I work with whose grandfather had cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and there was some struggle with the medical bills. I think there was a case of the insurance dropped, and these things happen between insurance, which is horrible. And this kid was selling subs to try and pay for his grandfather's chemo. And that in itself, like, the minute that I heard that, I had to think about it for a while. You know what I mean? It
Mm-hmm.
really just struck me the love of that kid for his grandfather, and you know that he was so determined to help save his grandfather, that he's selling, just trying anything he can to try and to better his grandfather's condition. And
Mm.
um, fortunately, thanks to all of you awesome people, we were able to donate a good chunk of money to that cause. And I had a really cool experience. I don't really know this guy very well. I've only known him for a few weeks, and we haven't really talked too much. But I got to, in person, hand him this donation and explain to him that this was from Rebel Cause, and what it was. And he just kind of looks at me and shakes my hand. He's like, "Thank you, man." Like, you could tell, kind of at a loss for words, um, and just kind of gave me this hug real quick, and it was interesting. And that always feels great, to be able to help other people. And the next day, that kid wasn't at work, And I was like, that's weird, what's going on? And I ended up talking to my boss at work, and he was like, yeah, man, his grandfather died this morning.
Wow.
So, that was, I felt horrible for this kid. And long story short, that was a few days ago, and he came into work today and handed me a card, and I knew it was probably a thank you card.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was just like, oh man, you didn't have to do it's not from me really, it's from Rebel Cause. It's from all these people that have, and he's like, no man, I want you to know how thankful we are, my family is, for this. And we just kind of looked at each other for a minute and kind of grabbed him and gave him like this big hug. And that's really the power of this. Like, I can't stress that enough. These awesome, amazing, powerful feelings of love and positivity and just helping other people is really just, it's the power of all this. Like, and I really hope everybody understands that. These little things, these little gestures, and it can really make such a positive difference. And guys, it's not just things like that. I'm very fortunate to be able to have the funds to be able to do things like that. But that's not all that matters. You guys can do things like that in other ways. Um, whether it's just being there emotionally for somebody, taking that time to, talk to that friend that, or not friend, I didn't know this kid, and now, these awesome thing happened. And, you see somebody that's down, that, is having a rough time, and you just take that minute to bring them up a little bit. Honestly, like, you don't know, you could have saved a life, whatever it is, the situation. It's such a powerful thing. And I would honestly, I just urge everybody, just try even in the slightest to make a difference and strive towards positivity. And you have no idea the effect it can have.
Mm. It's amazing that throughout this entire process, and I'm speaking more to the podcasting process, is that Kaden and I walked in. I'm spilling the beans on all the secrets behind how this all started here, Kaden, because I might as well.
Yeah,
Kaden
absolutely.
and I walked into this project, and we came in with the mindset of podcasting is going to be our voices out there talking about Star Wars, and we worked through it, man. We really worked through the entire process and said no, it's really not about that. It's about making sure that our voices are voices of positivity and unifying members, not just in the Star Wars community, but in the worldwide community of human beings. The emotions that we play out each day, the experiences that we have, the opportunities that we have to interact with each other in a positive way and allow each other to kind of build off of each other at the same time. I know that didn't really make a lot of sense, but having the opportunity to brainstorm with each other and being able to bounce ideas off of each other, all these different things. And the key word in there is each other. That is what we want you to come out of Friendom Week with, is that it's about each other. It's not about each. And it's so important that we continue to push that forward. Andrew's done it in that way. The experience that Kaden has had has allowed him in this moment to say, you know what, this is what it is all about. And we hope all of you come out of this, not just out of Friendom Week, but out of this episode right here and say, you know what, it's not about each. It's about each other. And it's about friends, the friendom, not the fandom. And it's about unity as community, because that is what pushes this world forward and allows us to progress as human beings and allows us to progress as people of all colors and races. We are one. And every moment that passes by that we have the opportunity to interact and be able to push that message forward is well worth it in the long run.
Yeah. I can't stress that enough, man. And you know what? I have I have two more shout outs tonight
Sure thing.
that I want to do for Friendom Week. And, first off, I want to give a big shout out to a very good friend of mine, Nick Hughes. He is a writer for the Millersville Snapper. And he approached me wanting to do a story about Rebel Cause for the paper. Millersville, for people that don't know, is a pretty major college in the Pennsylvania area. Probably like second to Penn State, big college. And he wanted to do this article on us. So we ended up arranging a meeting in person because I like to get, that's the point of the Rebel Cause events and all that. I like to get in person, and really get to know somebody and talk, and they can get my vibe a little better when we're in person and all that. And I ended up meeting with Nick right down the street from my house, actually, at a restaurant. And we sat there and had this amazing conversation. And I ended up leaving being like, I just not only made a new friend, but that was like the best interview I've ever had. Wow. It was such a natural it was a conversation. It wasn't like, what did you do this? Why, how did this make you feel? Why did you do this? We just had a conversation about our love of Star Wars. And let me tell you what, man, this guy is one hell of a gifted writer. Like, the article he put together for us was fantastic. And, you can just tell that this guy really loves, understands, and appreciates the Star Wars fandom, because you just see the love behind his words. You know what I mean? And not only that, but I've really taken a notice on being Facebook friends with him. He is a big advocate for voicing, much as Carrie Fisher was, depression and stuff like that. Being a voice and saying, you're not alone in that community, which is so, so, so important. I've have family members and people close to me that have struggled with depression, and it's not something to take lightly. And that's the power of this fandom as well, guys. If you're going through something like that, you reach out to any one of us, whether it's me, Robin, Andrew, James, Brian, James Farbo. You have someone to talk to, and I'm sure you reach Nick Hughes as well, and he will be that person for you as well. This truly is an outlet, and we want to be a resource, for lack of a better word, for people, and not just, hey, what's Darth Maul's, mom's dad's name, or, like random stuff, trivia stuff, but really advocates of life and positive living and voices of positivity and love. And, yeah. So Nick, thank you for being such an amazing voice in the Star Wars fandom. And I really look forward to seeing you battle Zoe Hinton at the event on the 22nd for that Rebel Cause Trivia Trooper helmet. Man, I'm super excited for that. I walked in the Farboco this evening, and they have like chalkboard paint on the walls, and he had written like, someone should challenge me to a Star Wars like trivia off or something like that. I wrote under it, I'm just like, it's on Nick. Kaden versus Nick.
That's awesome.
So, I'm really excited for that, man, for sure.
That's great. Yeah, big shout out to Nick. I hear nothing but fantastic stuff about you, buddy, from Kaden Stetler of Rebel Cause. Keep up the awesome work. I have a friend who actually graduated from Millersville, Mr. Ben Smith, so I'll shout him out quickly here. And Alex Nichols, who is also a Millersville graduate. So big shout out to the Millersville crew there. I know a lot of alumni from there. So keep it up, Nick. Keep up that positive work. And I know, Kaden, you got somebody else you got to break down here for Friendom Week.
Oh yeah, I have one more. Excuse me. When I first started this whole podcasting journey a little over a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
um, I was new to the scene, really, and I randomly stumbled across this podcast, and I was like, "What's going on?" Like, it's a Star Wars cooking show. I'm like, okay,
Mm,
you know, and me being a chef as a trade, I was like, okay, I'm intrigued, and I turned it on and I listened to my very first episode of Starbecue Podcast,
mm.
uh, starbecuepod.com. And, I just fell in love with these guys. Like, it's two bros, uncensored, mind you. This is not for younglings, but just talking like bros do about Star Wars. And, I had reached out to Fode, and long story short, have they joke all the time that I'm essentially the the third host of Starbecue because we end up talking so much. And I'm
Right.
on a ton of their episodes, they're on a couple of mine, and just the dynamic with these guys is something that is so easy to gravitate to because it's every bro you've ever had that loves Star Wars. You
Right.
talk about. I mean, I won't get into details because yes, it is an uncensored podcast. And that is part of what's great about it.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking about whatever you want. But I've laughed some of the hardest laughs I've had listening to their show.
Oh
And
yeah.
not to mention that they do some awesome stuff with not obviously Star Wars, but actual lightsaber combat, like really breaking down lightsaber combat into the forms and putting it into real world applications. It's awesome. And I've just had an awesome experience podcasting with these guys because you know you get on a Starbecue podcast
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Words of the Wills. You get on and you never really know where the conversation's going to go, but it's going to be a great conversation.
Right.
We have one episode that I'm on that is, I think it's 3.5 hours long. One shot. That was one recording.
Wow.
And it was just like, wow, but there's never any downtime. You know what I mean? It's just
For sure.
pure love of Star Wars conversation. It's fantastic. So, Fode, Bede, shout out to you guys for being such an important part of this fandom that really teaches people to speak your mind. Really just talk about what you love and what makes you love it, and don't feel bad about the stuff I guess you don't like about it. But at the same time, not bashing it, but being able to, okay, like let's be honest. Is Jar Jar Binks the greatest Star Wars character? No, but I can appreciate him and I can laugh about him. And
Yeah.
Starbecue are part of what helped me do that. So shout out to you guys. Definitely check those guys out. Like I said, starbecuepod.com and listen to all that great uncensored Star Wars podcastery.
Absolutely fantastic. I remember going on Starbecue for my first time, and just the conversation that was had was absolutely fantastic. Big shout out to Foden B. They're just keeping. It's an uncensored podcast, but it feels like family every time you go on, anytime you talk to them, and that's the way it should be. That is the way it should be, especially in the podcasting community. When you go onto a podcast, it shouldn't feel like a job. It should feel like family. And Starbecue does that for not just Rebel Cause, but for the BrickCityBlockade.com podcast network as well. That friendom, that focus is what drives them forward. And the uncensored stuff, by the way, is exactly what drives them forward, as well as the message that they convey, because it allows them to do something that not many other podcasts can do successfully, and it just makes it such an engaging conversation. So thank you, Starbecue, for all you do. Shout out to you on Friendom Week from Mr. Kaden himself. Keep up the awesome work. We're always listening. Nick, everybody else that we've shouted out here, Andrew, everybody. keep up the awesome work, keep up the positivity, keep spreading unity in the community. Well, I think it's that time of the show here, Mr. Stetler. It's a little thing we'd like to call
Plug time.
I think it's plug time. Where can the good people find you and your positive message across social media, including Rebel Cause? I think too.
Oh, absolutely. You can find Rebel Cause at Rebel Cause Lancaster on Facebook and on Instagram under that same name. You can find our podcast, Rebel Chatter, which is the official podcast of Rebel Cause, where we like to learn all of your fans' Star Wars stories. You can find that at rebelchatter.com and on iTunes and all those other great podcasting apps all across the galaxy. And of course, you can find us on
The BrickCityBlockade.com podcast network, which
absolutely.
leads right into this guy right here, which is a follow over on Twitter at Mr. Vote Tweets. Make sure to check out the BrickCityBlockade.com podcast network on Twitter as well at BrickCitySWPC. Head on over to Instagram, follow me at the official vote, and also make sure to follow the Brick City Blockade there at Brick City Blockade. You know the spiel. Head on over to iTunes, follow all of our fantastic podcast episodes that we do by hitting the subscribe button, rate and comment, and share with all of your friends. Also, please make sure to head on over to TeePublic, pick up a Friendem t-shirt while they're available. One lucky person at the end of this week is going to get a free one. They're also going to get a Rebel Cause t-shirt as well. So make sure to keep up using that hashtag Friendem. Make sure to keep spreading all that positivity across social media. And if you don't get a chance at that, well, guess what? You'll still be able to get a Friendem t-shirt at the very end, because as it says on it, I am a voice for positivity and unity, and that's what we want you to keep doing in whatever way, shape, or form you've done it to this point, and keep doing it every single minute of the day. Thank you guys so much for listening here to our Friendem Week Focus podcast. So many more great conversations in the near future. And as we always say, may the force be with you.
Always.